Alright, welcome to another walkthrough video. In this video, I'm going to show you how I compose a particular track for music licensing. In this case, it's kind of like a corporate track, even though the title says here, Real Estate Rhythms. And the reason why I titled it like that is because certain libraries give you certain information when it comes down to keywords and what clients are actually typing in the search. So I'm going to play it from start to finish, and then we're going to dissect exactly what's going on and how I compose this particular track. Classic corporate track, at least to my ears. So this track started exactly like I start all of my other compositions. I started with a 4-bar loop, and I started with a chord progression. This track is in 112 BPM, and I like to start first with a chord progression to know exactly what key am I in. Once I have established the tempo, and this track started like this. Okay, just very basic chord progression, nothing special here. This is a stock plugin, by the way. I'm using on this particular piano, one of my favorite plugins. I tend to overdo it with this plugin, but I just love the way it sounds. Once I have the chord progression, and I'm using the Logic stock piano here, I think it just works really, really well. Once I have established that, I start to build my track. So I have the chord progression, which is usually the piano or guitars for that matter. But because I'm going for kind of like a corporate track, right away I feel like I need to establish the mood of this track, right? So I really want to go for a corporate track, and I have this main guitar here with the piano playing. Of course, as I'm doing this, I have no drums or anything. So even though I have established the tempo, I actually do this with a click track. So it will go something like this. So that's how I'm composing this track at this stage, okay? And I'm taking decisions earlier on in the mix as well. Like, okay, if I want this track to be a corporate track, even though it's for a real estate type of project, I want to make it as spacious as possible. Oh, that's the wrong word. I want to make it as cinematic as possible if I could. So that's the main guitar, which gives me that corporate feel right away with the chord progression. And then I start to stack guitars one on top of each other. This is why I love to compose music like this, just stacking instrument on top of each other. So the second guitar sounds something like this. Maybe if I actually mute this just on its own so you can see how it sounds like. just to give it a little bit of movement. Look how low the actual fader is on this guitar. I'm using the bias effect as my plugin for guitars. Just great plugin. I mean, you could use they all do the same thing. I just use this particular one, okay? And I just want this to give me some movement, okay? When it comes down to this particular track. Try to contain myself though, not to make it too rock and roll. Okay, second guitar. Chord progression, okay. Third guitar. Right. Chord progression. So again, I'm building the track. So far we have all of this plus the piano. Right off the bat, it just sounds like a corporate track. Excellent. I'm in the ballpark of what I want to accomplish. The last guitar in this section is this one. Let me just isolate it. Okay, I'm using the bias effects as well. Again, I'm using this, the Valhalla Supermassive. I just love this plugin. And altogether, so far, this is what I had in the beginning stages of this composition. If you can make your track sound like this, okay, right from the start with a 4-bar loop, just with 5 tracks, I'm only using here 5 or 6 tracks. This is enough to be used as a bed, if you will, for any project. If you just loop this for like 10 minutes, that's it. That's all you need. A lot of composers tend to complicate a lot the music that they're making. They seem to forget that this music track is going to be used in a video or a presentation. And if I am a video maker, and if I want to present something, I want the music to be as simple as possible. So if I'm going to be talking on top of this music, it better not be distracting. All right. So for example, a good way to test this is what we have so far, right? Is this. So if I'm going to be talking on top of that, and this is going to be like a voiceover, right? And the music is in the background, I'm presenting something or explaining something, then it better not be distracting, right? It better not have so many things going on in the background, so I can talk on top of the music without making it a distraction, right? And if it loops itself and I can still talk, then I've done my job very, very well. But because we're not presenters ourselves, we're not really presenting something, we're not doing video presentations, we're certainly not doing real estate presentations either, then we seem to forget that this music is going to be used in this context. Most likely will be a voiceover, and if there's no voice, it doesn't matter. It's going to be some images, right? Probably it's going to be both. So this is something that we seem to forget as composers, that this music is going to be used somewhere that it doesn't require a lot of things happening in the music. That's what I mean. This music is going to be used in a project that at times we don't know. I mean, I don't know where this music track is going to be used. In fact, I don't know where it's being used because it's already selling on different libraries. So I don't know where this music track is ended up, right? Hopefully in different projects. Okay, not necessarily just real estate. So once I have the chord progression, my next thing is to go for the melody. And this is my melody here with this piano. Again, same stock plugin. Okay, when it comes down to melody, I always say the same thing. You need to be able to create tension and release that tension. Ask a question and get an answer. So the first section here is my first question, if you will. And this second section is while I'm answering that question. So this is just like a formula for writing motifs and melodies. Okay, create tension and then release that tension. Ask a question and then get an answer. So that's when it comes down to melodies, really. Okay, that's my first question, or I'm creating some tension. How can I release this? Very simple, very basic. It's almost like a kid's kind of melody, right? I don't need to be very complicated with this type of melodies here with this track. After this, I'm starting to think in terms of drums. All right, so I go here for Logic's drummer, classic drum. So all together, right? So far, as I am composing this track, and notice how the mix is all over the place, but this is exactly how I compose. Even the drums, I will bring it down if it's too much. And I'm literally composing, I'm literally mixing as I go along. So I have the drums, I have my guitars, I have my piano chord progression, I have my piano melodies, and this is what it sounds like so far. Again, very simple. After the drums is the bass, of course. I'm using Logic's bass. I like this fingerstyle bass or fingerless, fingerstyle bass, sorry. Another thing that I like about this, and I mentioned this before, is that when I compose in a loop, I can actually isolate things and see how they all work together. So for example, this guitar here, which is like a rhythm guitar, should work really well with this section and make sure that I have my drum and bass and my rhythmic section working fine. This is something that we have to be very careful when we're composing and writing music, okay? Make sure that everything is in time. Make sure that there is no funny sounds or ghost notes that are interfering with the composition. So I like to dissect and really go under the microscope when it comes down to this. If I am adding other instruments, it has to fit. The pieces must fit like a puzzle, okay? There's no room for error here. I mean, we can have ghost notes, but it has to be everything in place. Right, so everything seems to be okay. After this, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to build as much emphasis on the melody, because I feel the melody is a little bit weak, right? So this is the part where I actually start adding some strings. So I'm literally copying what the piano is doing, the melody. For this, I'm using one of my favorite plugins. Again, this is free. I'm using pretty much just free stock plugins to create this music. All right, you can go and check that out. Second violins, same plugin. Same melody. I'm just stacking instruments on top of each other. Got another one here, again from Spitfire's Audio, same plugin. Okay. A harp. So I'm trying to emphasize on that melody. And lastly, the violas here with, again, same plugin. I put the actual super Valhalla, but then I actually changed my mind. It was too much. So I still had it there, but you know, I didn't use it really. So altogether sounds like this, all of the instruments just emphasizing on that melody. It doesn't sound very exciting when you isolate them like that, but as you add up and you stack all the other instruments that we have covered so far, you can see that slowly makes sense. Okay, where's the bass here? Listen, it's not the best melody I have written. It can be a little bit bland, but it does work. And again, I'm just leaving my ego at the door. It's just, does it work for the project that is going to be used? Okay, which I don't know, you know. But my job is to make it as good as possible and as clean as possible. So from this point on, I'm starting to think that I need some more movement. And this is where I start adding some tambourines and some maracas here. These tambourines are from Logic. Again, I use plenty of this loops. You know, Logic has so many different things that you can just whack in there, and they just sound great. That's with, and this is without. And with. Notice how low it is here on the fader. All the way down, but it creates a little bit of movement. Same with the maracas here, okay? I mean, it's so low. As I'm adding these instruments, I'm mixing as I go along, okay? So with the drums, my bass, right? So that's what I have so far. That's it. That's what this track is all about. Now you see some different things like low texture, intro. Once I get out of the loop, once I compose vertically always, all the way down, I start to stack tracks on top of each other, and then I get out of the loop by going horizontal from start to finish. So once I start to arrange this track, I notice that this track doesn't have an intro or a verse or markers here explaining exactly what's going on, because it's kind of like the same thing start to finish, but I'm actually just building on the energy. Or really what I'm going here for is not so much building the energy, but actually going for a texture. I'm actually want to create a corporate track that is going to be used in a real estate type of project or video, or at least that's the reference that I have. In my mind, this is going to be shown in, or this is going to be used in a video where somebody's going to be showing some type of real estate, hopefully high-end real estate type of property, if you will. So I wanted to make it very nice and exclusive, almost like, I don't know, how can I say this? Like really high-end type of like real estate, right? And that's what I'm thinking. So I want to create a nice texture. If this track had a color, I like to think as well of my tracks in terms of colors. You know, I don't know if this track will fall into the green category or kind of like yellowish, you know, kind of like a warm track, if you will. And I like to give tracks some type of identity in terms of colors and try to think of music in terms of visuals. So this has to be a texture track. So once I start getting out of the loop, what I do is that I create an intro, and I started to create my intro, obviously with a chord progression here. Okay, well, let me play the intro and we dissect what's going on here. Okay, so two things. I have this intro here. Which is a sample, right, that I have chopped off somehow of some piano. And I have, of course, a Valhalla effect here. massive reverb. I tend to overdo it, like I mentioned, with this, but it works really well. So this is in the intro, as well with this low texture, kind of like a loop that I found somewhere. I don't remember exactly. It's like a drone. In the beginning, I liked this. I loved this so much, this sound, that I had it all the way through. So the way I will compose, if this was my track, in the sense in the beginning stages, I will do this, right? And just repeat all the way to the end. That's it, okay? But I didn't do it with this particular sound because it was just clouding the mix when everything else kicked in. But that's my intro. It's very cinematic, I guess. It will give some texture, really. And then another texture here as well. With this one, you notice that I did put that all the way through because it's higher, okay? And I wanted to create like an ambient type of vibe, if you will. Like not an ambient track per se, but create an ambience for sure. And this is the three things that are in the intro. Right, when you add the piano to that and the main guitar, I mean, if I take them away, you will see the difference. Let me take the texture away and this intro, inspiring intro. It sounds naked. I mean, it sounds clean. I'm going for a clean kind of vibe, but I want something more ambient, right? At this point as well, I feel like it needs more movement. I mean, I could have started like this, but I went for a kick drum here. This is from Logic as well, from the Apple loops, but if I can find them here. That's my intro. Okay, a great presentation or a great introduction to the track. And of course, I have my famous reverse reverb cymbals here. Sorry, with reverb. This is just a sample that I've been using for years, and I created my own sample for this type of transitions. Okay. And these transitions happen, this kind of reverse symbol happens whenever there is a change. You can see them here, okay? So from the intro going into the first change. So I'm building the momentum. You can see the maracas start to kick in here with the bass at bar 9, okay? So the first 4 bars is just the guitars, the piano, and some texture. It's kind of like establishing the mood. Then the reverse symbol introduces a new element, which is the maracas. Like say, hey, we're going somewhere, right? And then everything else that we've been talking about kicks in, all the guitars and everything else. The violas as well, in the first part here, they join. Kind of like building the momentum, kind of like establishing the mood here. The drums kick in here with everything, all the guitars, and then the melodies. So one thing to consider when it comes down to composing music for licensing is that every 4 bars, something else needs to be happening, or something new, some new element, right? It's very repetitive music, but at the same time, there's something new. And because I wanted to keep the theme to be consistent as possible throughout, I'm going for repetition, consistency, and texture without sounding boring. And that's kind of like really hard to do when it comes down to making music. How can you sound repetitive without sounding boring? but still be consistent with the texture and the things that we want to accomplish with this type of track, okay? So on this other part, the melody kicks in the first time here. This melody here, the reason why there's no reverse cymbal is because I want this piano to just come in very slightly from the back. Like there is something happening. This is a melody, but it's not a big change. The big change happens here in bar 33. That's why this reverse cymbal comes in, so it can emphasize on that melody. So that melody, the first time, is just like, hey, I'm here. I'm kind of like introducing myself, a soft melody, and then everything is going to kick in to support that idea. And obviously that's going to repeat twice, and then it's ending. The track is ending. This track is 1 minute and 42 seconds. Well, up to here, 47, almost 2 minutes, right, with the final tail. But, it is what it is, There's nothing else to it, really. But the melody comes in here, very, not shy, but a little bit soft. Right, probably like that note, I can probably make it a little bit harder. I can emphasize on that note, maybe, in the second one. Yeah. Same with this one. I can probably emphasize a little bit more on the notes. Okay. These have been played, so they all have different velocities. I want them to sound as human as possible, right? So what I'm doing here with the melody, and this is a composition technique, okay, that once you play the main motif or the main melody, then you repeat it because the listener is trying to predict what's going to happen next. So you need to repeat it. You need to repeat it, really. Okay, so I repeat that melody again with everything, with the violins, just to make sure that I am confirming their expectations as a listener, or in this case, as the video makers and people that are going to be doing this project. They will expect that melody to happen again, right? I'm not going to change that. So that melody is being repeated twice with all the instruments, and then it's over, right? And that's that. I mean, this track is so simple and so basic, but I mean, I can make like hundreds of tracks like this based on this type of feeling or texture. And I know that a lot of composers have a hard time making corporate music, and a lot of composers hate corporate music. I mean, I used to be one of those composers myself, but then I realized that it's a very popular theme in music licensing, and it can seem a little bit simple and bland at times, but it's our job as composers to make it as interesting as possible. And my question is always this: if this was a band, how many instruments do I really need in order to create this? So I need a guitar player, somebody playing the keyboards, some string sections or something, a drummer, and that's that, a bass player. There's not much to it. I mean, my track, there's not many things happening here. But if you can get it right from the start, right? If you can just get the main element, which is the chord progression and that corporate kind of like guitars, right? Let me just get to this part here, actually. If you can get this right with a few instruments, right? Just the piano. Where's the piano here? And the main guitars. If you can get this right from the start, just like this, with just a chord progression and a few guitars, and it sounds in the ballpark, you're done. Once you start adding some instruments like violins and stuff like that, that's it, man. You're pretty set. I mean, these violins are really simple. And if I isolate the piano, it works pretty well. The texture that plays throughout the track. Again, that texture, that ambient texture is playing throughout the track, okay? This could be a bad version, if you will. Like if I loop this for like 5 minutes straight, it's a bad version. The video editors love this. I will probably add the guitar to it though, some guitars. I can create a bed out of this, just a few tracks like this. No drums, no bass, no nothing. This is a perfectly well put together bed. If I can just replicate this or duplicate it and copy paste this particular 4-bar loop as it is with this instrument, I can make like a 5-minute track just like this, and it will be a bad version. And I can loop it, actually. It will be like a seamless loop, and this creates an immense value to the client, man. Because if you're a video maker or a video editor and you want to make this type of we want to use this type of music, you want to be able to do you want to be able to have flexibility when it comes down to the track. So I can really give this as a stem or just a bed version. If you enjoy this type of walkthrough videos, then you're gonna love my premium course, the Ultimate Stock Music Masterclass. You can find the link in the description and for all the information. In that course, I walk you through every single step of the way of how I compose music from start to finish and uploading it to different libraries. Thank you so much for all the love and support. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in another video, my friend.